Alright guys, welcome back to another exciting episode of Cooking with Dan! Alright, first off, big thank you to all the people that have followed the page so far. I'm currently in the process of setting up a YouTube account as well, so we're going to be on there, and I'm even going to get this ugly mug here onto Instagram and see whether we can do something with that. So, the last video that you saw was chicken Kievs. Today I'm going to cook something a little bit different. We're going to go and do cheesesteak into homemade pita bread. And we're going to do a egg and potato fritters to go on the side. So we're going to cook that all up from start to scratch like we normally do here with Cooking with Dan, and we're going to take it on down. Alright, so a few things that we're going to need recipe wise for this one. So we're going to need steak. Depending on how much you want to cook is completely up to you. I've got a pack here from Woolies. This is sizzle steak, nice and thin. You can start with your own steak if you want and slice it down to something thinner, but you do want it relatively thin so it cooks fairly quickly. We are going to need capsicum, so it gives a little bit of spice, a little bit of flavour to it. We want some mushrooms. You can use the big wide field mushrooms if you want, smaller ones, portobellos, completely up to you, flavour choice. Then we're going to want an onion. You can go either with a brown onion, white onion, red onion, doesn't make any real difference, it's all going to cruise on the flavour. And then some cheddar cheese that we're going to shred and place into that. So that's going to be the main filling that's going to go inside of the homemade pita bread that we're going to do. I said the condiment that's going to go with it is going to be potato fritters with egg. So for that one there, we're just going to use a standard golden royal potato. I'm going to use half of a white sweet potato. So there's two different sweet potatoes you'll get at most supermarkets. One is the white sweet potato, or it has a purple skin, but white flesh internal. So I'll just show you that there. So very white internal flesh that runs through. And the other one is your golden sweet potato, which is a orangey looking with a real orange internal flesh. So this one I'm going to go with the white sweet potato. For the pita bread, we need self-raising flour. So I buy these because they're easy. You can close them back up again and you don't end up with weevils and stuff in your flour as it goes through. We're also going to need natural yogurt. So this is not going to be your normal style pita bread. This is what I call a fast pita bread. So it doesn't require the proofing period that other dough does. We can make this almost straight away. And we're also going to need baking powder. So just your everyday baking powder from the shops will do. And one good old, hopefully free-ranged egg, RSPCA and all that love. Alright, so we're going to move straight into it. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is get our pita bread mixture ready to go. So we're going to bake that just a little, fry that a little bit later on, and we will get everything else cooked at the same time. So you're going to need a rather large mixing bowl. You want a set of standard kitchen scales. So what we're going for is even amount yogurt to even amount flour. So I have 170 grams worth of yogurt here. I am going to need 170 grams worth of flour. Now I am only cooking a meal for myself, but this recipe here for the pita breads that I'm doing will actually end up with enough for probably 2 or 3 people as it goes through. You can increase your measurement amounts depending on how many you want to go with. So we've got the flour in there, and we're going to go with our yogurt. I'm just going to dump that straight in there. Now when you're getting your yogurt, make sure you get your natural yogurt. You don't want any pasteurized stuff. The reason we're using yogurt is it already has the bacteria in it that is alive and growing. That'll help with the raising process as it goes through. And of course the final thing that we want there is that baking soda. So baking soda we want to go with a half teaspoon. So that works out to be about 2.5 mils. Remember when you're using your measuring spoons, level it out, otherwise you're not going to get your exact amounts. And then we're just going to use a big spoon, and we're going to move scale to the side, and we're just going to fold that all into it. And that is literally what the consistency of our dough is going to be mixed of. So because this isn't a traditional dough, it doesn't need as much kneading and moving as what you would normally do with a normal dough. All all we're trying to do is get the ingredients to come together. So once we get to the point where the flour's basically stopped being flour and you now got crumbs and everything in the bottom of your bowl, that's when we knead. So remembering to fold the dough over into itself when you knead. You can do this out on the table as well if you want. I'm just doing it all in the bowl to save a mess. We can always add just a touch of flour, but trying to keep that flour content down on this is trying to keep it an even mixture at the amount that you've got. So you can put just a touch more flour in there if it's getting a bit too sticky. Allows with the kneading process. And then we have our pita bread dough. Fastest dough you'll ever make. No proofing time required. Normally for doughs and stuff you'll need an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours depending on the temperature. But that one there we can use almost straight away. So we're just going to put that one into the bottom of the bowl and put that one aside, and we'll move on to getting our steak mixture ready to go. Okay, so moving on to our cheese steak mixture. So we're going to get the steak out of the packaging. Right, so the sizzle steak that I used and everything's really thin, so you're looking at maybe 5mm thick. That's about the consistency you want. We're just going to lightly slice it as well. So not as skinny as you do for a stir fry. Still want those pieces quite thick. So say each steak, maybe cut into 4 pieces, long ways. Now, if you'd watched my last video, last time I was here and everything, my chopping board was sliding all over the place. One of the new followers gave me a very strong suggestion that was making me nervous and asked that I place a cloth underneath it. So, a very good point. If you are cooking in a kitchen, especially with a hard surface, get a cloth, tea towel, wet it, put it on your chopping board. It's going to stop that movement. It's not going to slide all over the place. It's safety. Especially if you've got kids and stuff floating around. I have a small miniature schnauzer, which might as well be a kid, which makes just as much mesh. So that's my version of the child scenario. So we have our steak now set aside, that's ready to go. Next thing we want to do is to get our onion ready. So I want to head and tail this. And just one slit around the outside and just get that first layer of the onion off. And we want to go in half. And then we want to cut this fairly fine. We want this about maybe 2mm thick for each ring. Right, capsicum. Alright, so we put the knife in, we want to ring it around the inside edge, around where the head is. And then if we reach in our fingers, we pull out the center. And we want one cut down the side of it, and we want to open that up. And just like the steak, we want to put this into strings, but you keep this relatively small. And the last thing we need is just our mushrooms. And same deal, we want to just slice these. And that will be the consistency of the inside of our steak. Last thing we want is some grated cheese. So there's no real set amount. This really comes down to what you like, whether you like a real cheesy product or not. We want to use the fine side of the grater if you're using a multi-combo, not the big one, the smaller one. That way it's going to melt into it a lot easier. So I'm going to grate, I don't know, I'm going to think somewhere around 50 grams worth of this cheese. It's going to go into my steak when I start cooking it up. And we've got main components there, ready to go for our steak. So we're going to take this one and we're going to put it aside. And we're going to move on to getting the fritters ready for cooking as well. Okay, so any good meal needs its side. So this one's going to have potato fritters as its side accompaniment. I love potato fritters. As far as I'm concerned, they're probably the best side you could ever make with any dish. But that's completely bi-personal. They are the easiest possible thing you could ever make. So what we're going to do is we need a bowl, grater. So with that grater, we want to use, again, our skinny side. Now, if you saw my last videos, I'm a fan of keeping skins on. As far as I'm concerned, a lot of the nutrients are in there. It makes no difference to the texture or the flavor. All it does is it possibly gives a little bit of color. So I'm going to grate that one straight into it. So this is 1/2 of the sweet potato, the white sweet potato that I showed. Alright, so that is the white sweet potato all ground up, ready to go. Straight onto the golden royal potato. Give that one a grate to it. And then I'm going to take just a little bit of that cheese that I prepared earlier for the cheesesteak, and I'm going to add just a little bit of that into there. I'm going to add a little bit of salt. A little bit of pepper, and then 1 whole egg. And we're going to get in there with our hands and we're going to mix that up. And there you have the easiest possible side dish you will ever make. Tasty, full of flavour. And all we'll do is we will blop small handfuls of that into the pan of about a cupful size, run through. We'll mold that into our hand shape and everything. We'll stick that out into the frying pan and fry them up, and we'll have ourselves little golden delicious potato fritters. So that's basically all the prep work that is being done. It's ready to go. And the last thing we're going to do is, I'll show you in a couple of seconds, we're now going to take that dough that we pre-prepared and we're going to roll it out to pita sized breads. Ready for cooking, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, here's that pita bread that we had ready to go before. It has actually already increased in size since we stopped playing with it. That's the beauty of this mixture and dough and everything. It does it very fast, so you don't have to worry too much about the proofing period. So what we're going to do is we're just straight onto our bench top. We're going to grab a bit of flour. This is going to stop it from sticking. And we're going to place it down onto thing. First, just use your hands. And we're just going to give that a bit of a flatten out as much as possible to begin with. And straight onto the flour. I'm going to flip it again. So now both sides are coated. We take our rolling pin, and I'm just going to give that a bit of a roll out. And flip it. And roll out again. And flip. Roll out again. And just continue to repeat this process until we get down to the thickness we want. So what we're going for here is you've got two options at this point. Because I'm making these into stuffed pita breads, then I need something a little bit thicker so I can actually cut the bread as it goes through. But this mixture works just as well for flatbread as well. So if you just want to eat your cheesesteak accompanied to it instead of inside it, then you would make this a bit thinner and it would work a little easier on that side. So I'm just about there now to the consistency and thickness that I want. So what I'm going for is about somewhere between 3 to 5 mil thick. What I'm going to use now is my cutting template is a mixing bowl. So this is my mixing bowl measuring bowl as it runs through, sorry. And I'm just going to place that straight on top and push down. And that's my cut guide. Should be able to get 2 out of this, I think. Yep. And just run around with the knife. The reason I like this mixing bowl is because it's a nice oval shape, which is really good for the bread stuff. And place that aside, ready to go for cooking. Now it seems a waste to get rid of this, so we're just going to boil this back up again. and roll this back up. And we should be able to get one more out of this, I think. And this last one's probably going to be a little bit more like flatbread, just because I don't quite have enough mixture here. Ready to go for cooking. Righto, so that completes all the prep that we needed to do for this meal. The final stage is cooking, and the whole lot comes together in a matter of minutes. So we'll move on to the stove and we'll start the cooking process. All right, welcome to the cooking area. So first thing we're going to do is the pita breads. So what we need to do is light the stove up, and we want to get this to a nice hot heat. So we're only just going to use a couple of drops of oil here. Now I've just washed this pan, so there are a few drops of water on here. This is going to give me a good indication. If not, just get yourself a couple of drops of water, drip them on top of the pan. When they start sizzling off, your pan's getting to temperature. So people that have watched my previous video know this is my Jamie Oliver Teflon pan. It has a bit of history about it. Watch the last video to find out about that. It is a copper-based pan, so it does take a touch longer to get hotter than normal pans. If you've got cast iron, which God, I wish, I hope one day I will, then you will be much better off. The heat distribution is easier, and you will be able to cook at a temperature that is more steady than most other pans. This one's not bad, having such a really thick base on it. So that water's just about sizzled off now as it runs through. So we just want a touch of oil on there. We don't want too much. About a teaspoon's worth. You want to spread that out. Then we take our pita bread and we just lay it straight down on top. So it's just going to take no more than a couple of minutes. So all we're trying to do is to get the bread to brown off. You should start seeing some bubbles and stuff popping out of it. And while we're cooking this should fluff up as well. So what we're going to do is going to continue to flip it back and forth. So we have a quick look underneath. Just about crisp that off. So we're going to flip it back again. And then back over again. And that's already starting to raise, so it's now starting to become nice and fluffy. So there's enough room on this pan, we can do two at a time. So if you look at the difference between the two of them there, the thickness between the one that's now cooking and the one that's not, you can see that it's already risen into well over, probably just shy of a centimetre now. Now we're starting to get that nice golden colour and texture on top of. So the key and the secret to this is continue to keep turning it. We don't want to get one side too hot than the other. You want to even consistency. You are basically baking bread just at a really fast rate. Again, if you want to do flatbread, you just make this much thinner before you put it on. Now it's got a bunch of different variations you can do with this as well. You can mix up some garlic butter if you want. You can put garlic butter over the top of it. You can season and herb it. If you want to mix in some herbs and stuff with your bread when you do it, then you can have a herbed version of the pita bread. But because we're adding a lot of flavors into this bread anyway, then I just went with your basic, very average pita bread. That first one I had on there is probably just about close to being done. Of course, being a copper-based pan, this pan will continue to get hot, so you gotta remember to keep an eye on your temperatures. Bring your temperature back down again. The pan will stay hot without the extra heat being added to it. This last one done, and we'll move on to the cheese steak mixture. And there we have homemade pita bread, done extremely fast with the yogurt, something a little bit different. So we're going to slice them open and we're going to put our cheesesteak inside that. But for now, I've heated my oven up to about 150 degrees Celsius. I'm just going to put that in and leave it to stay hot. Alright, moving straight on to our cheesesteak mixture. So the first thing you want to put into your pan is your onions. And we're going to bring the temperature back up on this pan, and we're going to have a good helping of oil. So the original cheesesteak came from Philadelphia. That's where they came up. It was more of a bombosh style mix. They put everything inside it, and then slapped it down on the page. It was super greasy, high carbs, and was there to fill you up on a cold, chilly night. Our version here is a lot healthier. We're using cheddar cheese and nowhere near as much as what they did. And of course, because we make our pita bread out of yogurt, that's a much healthier version of bread. Alright, so onions just starting to soften up. So we're just going to spread that out to the sides of the pan. And let that continue to sizzle while we cook the steak. So this meal here will cook for 2 to 3 people, no problems whatsoever. Again, I'm just cooking for myself tonight, so we'll plate up one dish. The rest of it will suffice me over the next couple of days. So being sizzle steak, it's not going to take very long for this to brown off. Remember, try to keep the temperature you can quite hot. You don't want to broil these, you do want to sizzle them, so you do want to have a bit of brownness to them. And then we want to take our capsicum and our mushrooms, and we're going to stir that all in together as well. Take probably 2 to 3 minutes to get cooked all the way through. And the final stage we'll do is add the cheese to it. Alright, so as we said, this is cooked all the way through quite nicely. We're going to now kill the heat to this. And we're going to take our pre-prepared cheese. We grated up before, and we're just going to lightly spread that over the top of it. And we're just going to fold that mixture into it. This is going to get the cheese to melt all the way through it. Being cheddar, it's nice and gooey. And there we have Philly cheesesteak. Right, so the final stage we're going to do is to make our sides, which is our fritter patties. We're going to take this pan and we're going to place this in the oven as well. And I'm going to grab another one of my pans here. And we're going to get this one nice and hot. And we're going to put a good, decent amount of oil into this one. So we want to be, maybe 2 or 3 mils thick. Because we're effectively going to basically deep fry these. So we want a plate ready to go on the side. And we just want to take small ball amounts here. I said about the size of your hand. You take a little bit off, throw it in the pan. If it's frying, it's sizzling, it's ready to go. I'm just going to place that ball into it. And repeat the process. And just use your spatula to flatten these down. It's going to take 1 to 2 minutes each side to cook these through. should end up with a nice golden coloured patty. Okay, so we flip these. As you can see, beautiful golden looking colour. We'll grab ourselves some paper towels. And you want to fold the paper towels over and place them into your dish. This is going to absorb any of that extra oil that's going to come out of these. And we have our potato fritters. I'm going to go ahead and cook the rest of these. And that is our fritters done. So the last thing we've got to do, guys, is just to take everything out of the oven and plate it all up, and dinner is served. Okay, so here we are. Now to plate this up is a real simple process. All we're going to do is we're going to take our knife, take our pita bread. So if it's raised the way that it should, you should be able to get a knife into it and open it up like a bread pocket. Then we're just going to take a fork, take our Philly cheese mixture, give it a bit of a stir, get our homemade pita breads, and stuff them. No right or wrong way about doing this. As I said, if your choice that you don't want to open up the pita bread and stuff it, then the pita bread is just as good sitting on its side, ready to go. And then we have the stuffed Philly cheese pita bread, ready to go with our potato fritters. We'll plate it all up and show you what it looks like. And here we have it, guys. We have our Philly cheesesteak done with capsicum, cheese, onion, and those sizzle steaks into our homemade pita bread. It's been stuffed in there, and then we've got our sweet potato and normal potato fritters as our side dish. I hope you've enjoyed the cook along. Stay tuned for many more videos. My YouTube is now up and running, and you can find the link in the comments if you want to watch this via YouTube instead of Facebook. And we will continue to cook meals throughout the weeks, months, and coming years with Cooking with Dan. Thanks again, and remember to hit that follow button. Cheers.